The librarian's life was simple, quiet, and unremarkable, or so it seemed to those who didn't know him. On a remote planet far from the bustling hubs of the Galactic Federation, he spent his days among towering shelves of ancient texts and crumbling data crystals. His world was one of whispered histories and forgotten knowledge, a sanctuary he had built for himself after years of wandering. To the locals, he was just the keeper of the archives, a harmless man with a gentle smile and a love for stories. But beneath his unassuming exterior lay a sharp mind and a heart full of secrets, the most guarded of which was his sister. She was a shadow in his life, a figure who appeared only in cryptic messages and fleeting visits, her true identity known to no one. The Galactic Soldiers arrived without warning, their sleek warships cutting through the atmosphere like blades. They were an elite unit, clad in armor that gleamed under the pale sun, their faces hidden behind mirrored visors. To them, the planet was nothing more than a backwater, a place to be swept aside in their pursuit of a fugitive. They moved with the arrogance of those who believed themselves untouchable, their disdain for the locals evident in every word and gesture. When they stormed the archives, the librarian stood his ground, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to their aggression. He answered their questions truthfully, but his ignorance of their target only fueled their frustration. To them, he was an obstacle, a nobody who dared to waste their time. The fatal mistake came swiftly, born of impatience and unchecked power. One of the soldiers, a hot-headed lieutenant, grew tired of the librarian's calm replies. In a moment of rage, he drew his weapon and fired, the blast tearing through the librarian's chest before he could utter another word. The others watched in silence, their expressions unreadable behind their helmets. To them, it was a minor inconvenience, a life snuffed out without a second thought. They left the archives as quickly as they had arrived, their mission incomplete but their arrogance intact. As their ships disappeared into the stars, the librarian's body lay still among the ruins of his beloved books, his final thoughts a silent plea for his sister's safety. Unbeknownst to the soldiers, their actions had set off a chain of events they could never have anticipated. Far across the galaxy, the librarian's sister received the news of his death through a secure channel. Her reaction was immediate and visceral, a storm of grief and rage that shook her to her core. She was no ordinary woman. She was a Black Ops commander, a legend in the shadows, feared by even the most hardened soldiers. Her brother had been her anchor, the one person who had kept her grounded in a life defined by violence and secrecy. Now he was gone, and the soldiers who had taken him from her would pay dearly. She activated her network, her mind already racing with plans of vengeance. The galaxy would soon learn the cost of crossing her, and the soldiers would discover too late that they had awakened a force far beyond their understanding. The Black Ops commander stood in the dim light of her private quarters, the holographic message flickering before her. The words were stark, unyielding. Her brother was dead. Killed by galactic soldiers on a remote planet, his life extinguished as if it meant nothing. Her hands clenched into fists, nails digging into her palms as the weight of the news settled over her. She had always known the risks of her line of work, the danger of enemies tracing her back to him. But she had never imagined it would end like this. Him, a gentle soul who had never harmed anyone, slaughtered by those who saw themselves as untouchable. Her grief was a tempest, raw and consuming, but it was quickly eclipsed by a cold, unrelenting fury. They would pay. Every last one of them. She wasted no time. Accessing her network of informants and surveillance systems, she began piecing together the events that had led to her brother's death. The soldiers were part of an elite unit, their mission classified, their arrogance well documented. She traced their movements, their communications, their every step. As the data poured in, her mind worked with the precision of a machine, analyzing, strategizing, planning. Memories of her brother surfaced unbidden. His laughter, his quiet wisdom, the way he had always believed in her, even when she doubted herself. He had been her anchor, the one person who had never asked her to be anything other than who she was. And now, he was gone, his life snuffed out by men who saw themselves as gods. She would make them regret it. Her superiors warned her against acting on personal vendettas. It was against protocol, they said, a risk to the delicate balance of power in the galaxy. But she didn't care. Protocol had never saved her brother, and balance meant nothing to her now. She assembled a small team, handpicked for their loyalty and skill. They knew better than to question her, their respect for her bordering on reverence. When she explained the mission, there were no objections, no hesitation. They would follow her to the ends of the galaxy, and beyond if necessary. The soldiers had made a fatal mistake, and they would soon learn the cost of underestimating her. Tracking the soldiers to a distant outpost, she began setting the stage for their downfall. The outpost was heavily fortified, a testament to the soldiers' confidence in their own invincibility. But she knew their weaknesses, their blind spots, their over-reliance on technology. Her team moved like shadows, infiltrating the perimeter with ease, their movements precise and deliberate. She watched from a distance, her mind calculating every possible outcome, every variable. The soldiers had no idea what was coming, no inkling of the storm that was about to descend upon them. They had killed her brother, and now they would face the consequences. She would make sure of it. The galaxy would remember her name, and they would remember his. The outpost was a fortress, a sprawling complex of reinforced walls and advanced security systems, designed to repel any threat. But the Black Ops commander had spent her life dismantling fortresses, and this one would be no different. Her team moved with surgical precision, disabling alarms, bypassing sensors, and neutralizing guards before they could raise the alarm. The soldiers inside were confident, their arrogance blinding them to the danger creeping closer with every passing moment. They had no idea that their every move was being watched, their every weakness exploited. The commander's voice was calm and steady over the comms, directing her team with an authority that brooked no dissent. She had waited for this moment, planned for it, and now it was time to strike. The first sign of trouble came when the lights flickered and died, plunging the outpost into darkness. Emergency systems kicked in, casting the corridors in an eerie red glow, but it was too late. The commander's team was already inside, their movements silent and deadly. The soldiers scrambled to respond, their training kicking in, but they were unprepared for the ferocity of the attack. The commander herself led the charge, her presence a force of nature. She moved through the chaos with a cold efficiency, her every action calculated to maximize the damage. She didn't just want to defeat them, she wanted to break them, to make them feel the same helplessness they had inflicted on her brother. Her voice echoed through the comms, taunting them, reminding them of their mistake. They had killed an innocent man, and now they would pay. One by one, the soldiers fell. Some fought bravely, their training and discipline shining through even in the face of certain death. Others panicked, their arrogance crumbling as they realized the gravity of their situation. The commander's team was relentless, their every move a testament to their skill and loyalty. They had no mercy to offer, no quarter to give. This was not a mission, it was a reckoning. The commander's grief and rage fueled her, driving her forward even as her body screamed for rest. She would not stop until every last one of them was dead, until the galaxy knew the cost of crossing her. The final confrontation came in the heart of the outpost, where the squad leader had barricaded himself. He was a seasoned veteran, his reputation built on countless victories, but now he was alone, his confidence shattered. The commander faced him with a cold, unflinching gaze, her weapon steady in her hand. He tried to reason with her, to justify his actions, but she was beyond words. Her brother's face flashed in her mind, his smile, his kindness, his unwavering belief in her. She pulled the trigger without hesitation, the blast echoing through the empty corridors. The squad leader fell, his body crumpling to the ground, and with him died the last remnants of the soldiers' arrogance. The outpost was silent, the air thick with the weight of what had just transpired. The commander stood amidst the wreckage, her grief and rage still burning, but tempered now by a grim satisfaction. They had paid for their mistake, and her brother's memory had been avenged. But the cost was high, and the galaxy would never be the same. The outpost was silent, the air heavy with the aftermath of destruction. The Black Ops commander stood amidst the wreckage, her breathing steady but her mind racing. The soldiers were dead, their arrogance and cruelty extinguished, but the victory felt hollow. Her brother was still gone, his absence a void that no amount of vengeance could fill. She knelt beside the body of the squad leader, her weapon still in hand, and allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The galaxy would remember this day, but for her it was not a triumph, it was a reckoning, a necessary act of justice. She had done what she had to do, but the cost weighed heavily on her soul. Her team gathered around her, their faces grim but resolute. They had followed her without question, their loyalty unwavering, and she knew she owed them more than words could express. She gave them a curt nod, a silent acknowledgement of their sacrifice, and they dispersed to secure the area. Alone once more, She activated her comms and sent a brief message to her superiors. The mission was complete, the threat neutralized, but she made no mention of the personal stakes that had driven her. They would know, of course, they always did, but she had no interest in their approval or their reprimands. This had been for her brother, and for no one else. As she prepared to leave the outpost, she found herself drawn to a small, unassuming room tucked away in the corner of the complex. Inside, she discovered a collection of data crystals, their contents encrypted but familiar. Her brother had always been meticulous in his work, his love for knowledge evident in every detail. She decrypted the files with ease, her hands trembling as she accessed the information. What she found took her breath away, a comprehensive archive of galactic history, philosophy, and culture, meticulously curated and annotated. It was his life's work, a testament to his belief in the power of knowledge to unite and heal. Tears welled in her eyes as she realized the magnitude of what he had been trying to achieve. He had never sought power or glory. He had only wanted to make the galaxy a better place. The discovery changed everything. Her grief remained, a constant ache in her chest, but it was tempered now by a newfound sense of purpose. She would honor her brother's memory by continuing his work, by using her influence and resources to promote the ideals he had held dear. The galaxy was a harsh and unforgiving place, but it didn't have to be. She had spent her life fighting in the shadows, but now she saw a different path, one that led not to destruction, but to hope. It would not be easy, and there would be those who opposed her, but she was no stranger to adversity. She had faced the worst the galaxy had to offer, and she had emerged stronger. As she left the outpost, her mind was already racing with plans and possibilities. She would step back from the front lines, at least for a time, and focus on building something that would endure. Her brother's legacy would not be forgotten. It would live on in the hearts and minds of those who believed in a better future. The soldiers' faction would no doubt seek retribution, but she was ready. Let them come. She had faced worse, and she would face them with the same determination that had brought her this far. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but it was also full of potential. She would honor her brother's memory by striving to unlock that potential, one step at a time. The road ahead was long, but she was ready to walk it. For him, and for the galaxy he had loved.